Okay, so today we're diving deep into the story of Joseph. You know, the one from the Bible.
Ah,
The
yes.
guy goes from prisoner to basically running Egypt. It's kind of a wild ride. And we've got some excerpts here from Unlocking Destiny.
Joseph's rise from prison to power in Egypt
Yeah.
really digs into Genesis 41.
Exactly. And we're trying to unpack how this massive, almost unbelievable transformation happened.
Well, and you got to admit, the way this story unfolds is just masterful.
Oh, totally.
You've got Joseph stuck in prison, falsely accused, and then, bam, summoned before Pharaoh himself. Talk about a turn of events.
It's like straight out of a movie or something. But this wasn't just any run-of-the-mill problem Pharaoh was facing, was it?
No, not at all.
It wasn't like, oh, I need someone to fix the chariot. This was about something much bigger.
Dreams.
Right. Dreams. And back then, in the time of Genesis, a ruler's dreams, they weren't just considered random thoughts.
Yeah,
Like
no, absolutely not. They were seen as direct messages.
direct messages from the divine, from God.
Yeah.
It was serious stuff.
Critically important, especially for someone in Pharaoh's position. And these dreams, they weren't exactly comforting.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Okay, so imagine this. Pharaoh sees these, healthy, strong cows just getting devoured by these scrawny, starved cows.
That's kind of creepy.
Right. And it doesn't stop there. Then, healthy stalks of grain are just swallowed up by these withered ones.
So not just about agriculture.
It was a symbol, right, a symbol of something deeper, something wrong. It pointed to a fear about the fate of all of Egypt.
It's no wonder everyone was freaking out. And that's where Joseph comes in. They pull him straight from prison, probably still in his prison clothes, and suddenly he's standing before Pharaoh.
Can you imagine?
And he doesn't even hesitate. He just lays out this interpretation, super confident, like he's got some ancient wisdom on speed dial.
Well, and that's what's so interesting, right? The text makes it very clear. This wasn't just some party trick. It's explicitly stated that God gave Joseph this ability to understand these messages, these symbols in the dreams.
Right. He's not taking credit for it at all. He's basically a conduit.
Exactly. For something much bigger than himself.
And he doesn't just say, oh, these images mean this and that. He goes a step further.
Lays out a plan.
A whole plan of action.
An action plan for the ages.
He's telling Pharaoh, okay, listen up. You're going to have 7 years of incredible abundance, bumper crops everywhere.
7 fat years, basically.
Exactly. But then, and this is the important part, those are going to be followed by 7 years of devastating famine.
So prepare.
And he's not messing around. He says, we need to stockpile grain, like right now, while times are good, so that when things get rough, we're ready.
He's basically giving Pharaoh a crash course in economic policy centuries before economics existed as a thing, way ahead of his time.
Imagine being Pharaoh, right? This prisoner, maybe still in those rough prison clothes, is dropping knowledge bombs on you about economic cycles and how to prepare a whole nation. It's like, wait, who are you again?
Total mic drop moment. And here's the thing about Joseph. Throughout this entire ordeal, he's incredibly humble.
Yeah.
He could have easily been like, look at me, I have all the answers, worship me. But he doesn't. He keeps saying, this isn't me, this is God working through me.
Which honestly probably made him even more trustworthy to Pharaoh.
Exactly. This humility, it's a huge part of what convinces Pharaoh that Joseph is the real deal.
And that's when Pharaoh realizes this isn't just some random dude who got lucky with dream interpretation. This is a leader.
Right.
And just like that, boom, he promotes Joseph to basically second in command. Talk about a career 180, it's unheard of.
Unprecedented.
Yeah.
But it shows how desperate the situation was.
And how much?
Trust. Trust and faith he put in Joseph.
And Joseph's character.
Because in that moment, Pharaoh put the fate of all of Egypt.
All of Egypt in the hands of a former prisoner.
It's remarkable.
And this is where the story gets even more interesting, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
Because, yeah, we see Joseph's rise to power, and it's impressive, right? But it's the smaller details, the stuff that reveals how this experience really changed him, that I find fascinating.
Right. You can get caught up in the epic scale of it all. But you're spot on. There are these little moments that tell us so much.
Exactly.
Like, take the names he chooses for his sons, Manasseh and Ephraim.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that, because at first glance, they're kind of different.
Right.
So what's the deal with these names?
Well, think about it. His firstborn son, he names him Manasseh, which, and this is important, it means, for God has made me forget all my trouble and all my father's household. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Here he is, about to be reunited with his family after all these years, and he names his son after forgetting them.
You'd think it'd be like celebration time. Welcome home. Let's name the kid Reunited or something.
Right, you think. But those years, they weren't just a minor inconvenience, right?
Oh, definitely not.
Betrayal, enslavement, prison,
Mm-hmm.
and all of that from his own brothers.
Brutal.
So when he names his son Manasseh, it's not that he's literally wiping his family from his memory.
Right.
It's more like he's acknowledging the pain, the hurt, but he's choosing to focus on the present, on the good stuff that's happening in his life now.
It takes a lot of strength to do that, to let go of that kind of baggage.
It really does.
Mhm.
It speaks volumes about his resilience. He could have easily held on to that bitterness,
Totally.
but instead he chooses forgiveness, and he focuses on building a new life. And then there's Ephraim,
His second son.
right? And his name means, "For God has made me fruitful in the land of my affliction."
Wow.
That's powerful, right?
Yeah. Because Egypt, it was the place of his suffering, his captivity, and yet it becomes the place where he thrives,
Yeah.
finds purpose, raises a family.
It's like a statement, like he's saying, even when things are tough, life finds a way.
It reminds me of that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yes. And Joseph is like the ultimate example of that.
He totally is.
When we can't forget the context here, it's not just some guy having kids, right? This is Joseph.
The most powerful man in Egypt.
Exactly. The guy responsible for saving a whole nation from starvation.
And who does he end up saving?
His own family.
His family, the very people who did him wrong.
It's incredible.
It's like those dreams he interpreted, they weren't just about Pharaoh or even Egypt,
Right.
They were about Joseph's destiny, too. Like it was all connected somehow.
That's all part of this bigger tapestry.
Yes, exactly. But there's this whole other layer to this story that I find so fascinating. It's about a side of Joseph we don't often discuss.
Okay, you've got my attention. Tell me more.
It's like we get so caught up in the, prison break part of Joseph's story, the whole rags to riches thing,
Yeah.
that we kind of miss the most incredible transformation.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's not about his circumstances. It's about what happened within him.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's easy to focus on the externals,
Totally.
but the Joseph that comes out of all this hardship,
Right.
he's a testament to, the power of inner strength.
He could have been so bitter after everything.
Oh, absolutely.
But he doesn't seek revenge. Instead, it's like he chooses forgiveness.
Forgiveness, yeah.
He sees this bigger picture, right? Like
Yeah.
he trusts that even his suffering, all that pain, it had a purpose.
It's amazing, yeah, because it reminds us
It really does.
we always have a choice in how we respond to things,
Yeah.
to the hard stuff.
Totally.
Joseph could let it all harden him, but instead it's like he let those experiences refine him.
Yeah.
So he emerges from prison, not broken, but stronger, wiser.
And more compassionate, I think.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
And that's what makes the reunion with his brothers so powerful.
Oh my gosh.
I
Yeah.
think you imagine. He could easily imprison them, or
Yeah.
worse, right?
E-
But instead, he weeps. He embraces them, offers this, unbelievable level of forgiveness.
It's almost superhuman, honestly.
It really is. I
Yeah.
mean, the emotional weight of that encounter,
I know.
all those years culminating in that moment.
Yeah, it makes you think, what would it take for me to offer that kind of grace
Right.
under those circumstances? It makes me think about my own life, the little grudges I hold on to,
Yeah.
It's like Joseph's story is a reminder that forgiveness, it's hard,
Yeah.
but
That's powerful.
it's the key
Yeah, it's like unlocking this peace, this freedom.
that you never even thought possible.
Exactly. And we can't forget Joseph's faith played a huge role in all of this.
Oh, for sure.
Throughout everything, even when he was struggling to understand, he held on to that.
His faith never wavered.
Never wavered, right. And it was that faith that allowed him to not just survive, but to really thrive.
And ultimately, to save so many others.
Exactly.
It's like sometimes the hardest things we go through, the things that feel like prisons,
Yeah.
they actually become these catalysts for real growth.
Yeah.
Joseph's story reminds us there's always this bigger picture.
Always.
Even when we can't see it. And that our choices, especially choosing to forgive,
Right.
they can shape not just our own lives,
The generations.
but generations to come.
It's incredible.
Well, it's an amazing story. Well, on that note, I think we're about out of time for this deep dive.
Yeah.
But this story really makes you think, right?
It does.
It reminds us that even in those dark times, hope and faith, they can prevail. And you never know, you might be on the verge of your own incredible transformation. Thanks for joining us, everyone.